wonder, were any of the plays an island unto themselves? Well, let's start with Hart Island by Tracy Weller from Mason Holdings. It was directed by Christian Thor, and it takes historical stock of the various islands surrounding New York, ending in Hart Island, also known as Potter's Field, where the indigent are buried along with those that don't make proper burial arrangements, and infants and children without someone to pay for their burial. So they talk about Roosevelt Island and Rikers Island and Ward Island, and the various characters that are like in a group therapy session. They kind of represent the islands in a way, and then they show up in this little dirt spot that's marked by something that was important in their stories. But because of my vertigo, I had to keep my eyes closed the entire time because the projections were very necessary to the play, but they were too much for me. So I had a hard time figuring out, but they mentioned time and isolation and trusting issues a lot. And I love Mason Holding. I've seen other things that they've done. So I'm really looking forward to their next show, because this one was just, even reading it, I had trouble understanding it. So I really don't feel fair to give it a happy or unhappy face, but I mean, it's selling out and they are a wonderful company. And now for some more Poor Unfortunate Souls. We'll talk about that later on in the show, by the way, little hint there. Jessica Blank and Eric Jensen's Coal Country for Audible shines a light on a horrific coal mining disaster that took place in Mont Coal, West Virginia on April 5th, 2010. This is a documentary play. The lives of the people of Mont Coal, West Virginia revolve around working at the coal mines. Their families have worked there for generations, and we meet a few of the many that were impacted when management failed to protect their workers, and the subsequent trial that with an outcome you may or may not expect. So everything was going fine when they were under Peabody Coal, but when Massey took over and put Blankenship in charge, then the union people went out the window, non-union took hold of them. All they cared about was making money and mining the best parts. And we find out, these people who had fathers and sons and whole families working there, and what happened with the result of the trial and afterwards, and how it affected them. And it's so horrible. I mean, can anyone really win against greed? The cast did an outstanding job of bringing these people back to life and making us feel how they felt. And Steve Earle has created original music to propel the story along and add even more emotion. And Jessica Blank and Eric Jensen, just as they did with Exonerated about wrongfully convicted prisoners, have created a story about the other side of injustice. And your emotions will run deep in Coal Country. Happy Face Plus, well worth seeing.
The Irish Repertory Theatre has once again set a standard for us all with their incredibly intense production of Eugene ONeill's A Touch of the Poet. Set in 1828 in a small village outside Boston, it concerns a family of Irish immigrants who have come to America to find a better life, and their inability to move forward because Cornelius Melody, the head of the family, is fixated on a moment of glory and cannot give up his aristocratic pretensions. Almost needless to say, since it's a play about the Irish by Eugene ONeill, he's now a hopeless alcoholic. 20 years previously, Cornelius Melody had served as a major in the army under the Duke of Wellington, fighting against Napoleon in what was known as the Peninsular War. He distinguished himself in the Battle of Talavera, received medals from the Duke for his bravery, and has lived on it ever since. When the play begins, he and his family are preparing to celebrate the 20th anniversary of the great battle. That is, his overworked wife and rebellious daughter are preparing to celebrate. He's hungover as always and can't get through the day without drinking. What could go wrong? Mr. ONeill has created a realistic picture of immigrant life drenched in poetry and drama that the Irish rep plays to the hilt. As himself, Major Cornelius Melody, Robert Cuccioli dominates the stage the way he dominates the people around him. At times, he's an unstoppable force. At other times, he's falling apart, and there doesn't seem to be any middle ground. As Nora, the Major's long mistreated wife, Kate Forbes is more than sympathetic. It broke my heart when she bravely gave her husband a drink just to help him start his day, while Belle Aykroyd, strong and determined as his daughter Sarah, will have none of it. She's leaving as soon as she can, as she has little sympathy for her father, an aging hero who is frozen in time and class. The entire cast is superb, subtle, and beautifully immersed in the period and the style. Happy Face Plus to director Ciaran Riley and her outstanding cast. See this if you can. Just the sound of O'Neill's exquisite language is worth the trip. It's yet another reminder why his plays are still produced today. Eva?
Yeah, what makes matters worse is just by happenstance, his old corporal shows up. So he has someone who actually can share in his glory and actually, you know, make sure they see. I'm telling the truth. There's proof. I've got proof here. And of course, the townspeople, they just despise and disrespect him so much, but they put on this face because they want the free drinks. They're just a bunch of spongers. So you kind of have sympathy for this family because the rest of the people are so dreadful. And of course, the daughter's in love with a rich person. It's always the poor versus the rich. And, you know, and the thing she has, she was determined to have this guy marry her. You know, he's a very shy young man. He does love her, but the family doesn't want him, you know, with these dirty Irishmen, even though he is, you know, his own father really did have a castle, but, you know, they pissed the money away. And there's something, the thing is about Eugene ONeill that I just love and find heartbreaking every time, and it's all his characters. They all have delusions that they think once they get rid of those delusions, I mean, it's especially in Iceman Cometh, that they can live and they're free and they can carry on. But in a way, it's those illusions that keep them sane, even though it's driving everyone else around them insane. It's really, he's a brilliant writer. This and everyone just did such an amazing job. It was just so wonderful. And you're just like, you're heartbreaking through this whole thing. And the Irish rep, I mean, I saw this on the line, and even online, they managed to, I mean, that kiss, they actually made a kiss happen. I mean, and here they can do it live. So I know I'm carrying on, but it was just so damn good.
Well, you're absolutely right. It was. And, you know, and you can't do better than they do over there at the Irish Rep. I swear, their costumes are beautiful, their sets are beautiful, their acting is classy. I mean, we can't, you know, really, they set a standard for everybody.
Yes, we salute them.
Absolutely.
And we give them medals.
Give them the medals and a Happy Face Plus from both of us.
And now for our newest reviewer, we've got Benjamin Laufer to talk about a couple of fun events he went to. So take it away, Benjamin.
Hi, everybody. Last week, I had the pleasure of attending So Sad, So Sexy at the Tank. This is a new concept of a show, and was happy to be in the audience of a sold-out performance. So Sad, So Sexy told the parallel stories of Lucy Prescott, an artist in the Victorian era, and Isabel Steinberg, a former model and child pageant star living in the 21st century. Both characters struggled with experiences of abuse and being institutionalized for mental health. I found it a little bit difficult to constantly switch between two stories, but I appreciate what was attempted to be done here, which was proving offenses of sexual abuse and that they are timeless despite our world seemingly becoming more progressive. This was best articulated by the character Isabella as she escaped into the book Lucy's Diary, where she says, "This story took place centuries ago, but feels as if it could have been written today." The show tries to validate and make an audience feel seen as Isabella speaks to her online followers about her and Lucy's story. The written dialogue and expressions overtly rubbed in the show's themes and messages, which didn't leave much room for thinking on the audience's behalf. So Sad, So Sexy also attempted to address too many issues, including, but not limited to, stigma against mental health, racial medical injustice, power imbalance, and sexual assault. Had it solely focused on just one issue or not explicitly stated the other issues at play, I feel more could have been surmised. The show also felt as if it dragged on after every possible resolution. The show has themes that are relatable for audiences, and I personally found the more nuanced dynamic of the only child relationship between Isabella and her mother relatable. And for context, Isabella's mother, Margaret Steinberg, is a former beauty queen herself who reflects her own ideals onto Isabella and can't quite comprehend her daughter's decision to leave the world of pageantry after suffering a bout of mental health. Others seated nearby responded tearfully to the themes of sexual abuse. Overall, I would say the writing falls short, but the acting holds the show together. The cast played to one another's strengths and showcased a diverse body of talent. I give this show an unhappy face. I had the pleasure of attending StickAPole in it, a weekly comedy and pole dancing show that takes place at Drom in the East Village. More information is available on their website at StickAPole.com. StickAPole is truly a one-of-a-kind show. Where else can you find pole dancing and comedy in one place? To my surprise, the comedy and pole dancing did not occur simultaneously. I will admit, a pole dancing show initially sounded frisky, but the show proved to not be a burlesque act, but a mix of gymnastics and aerial dance. There was a great balance of both comic and dance acts that left you feeling energized and entertained. The pole dancers stole the show. 4 pole dancers felt straight out of an acrobatic circus act, demonstrating strength and artistry. As one comedian described, the comedians serve as a palate cleanser for the jaw-dropping pole dancers. In between acts, as we are still living in the age of COVID, one individual scaled the pole with a rag and cleaning fluid in hand, part entertainment, part safety measure. The diverse talent pool consisted of a dance studio owner, instructors, a personal trainer, writers, a dance champion, and an award-winning comic who jokingly admitted to competing only against 2 other comics out of his entire university for the title. The acts were perfectly choreographed to themed music, defying gravity, sliding, swinging, flipping, and kicking. In New York City, comedy acts can be found almost on a nightly basis, but contrasting comics with pole dancers is truly a unique experience. The showrunners present a great question. If you don't see shows like this, why else are you paying the crazy New York City rents? The show, again, takes place every 2 weeks at Drom, 85 Avenue A in the East Village, with different themes to be found at every show. Find yourself a part of this spectacle, cheering and laughing along in the audience. I rate this show a happy face plus.
Helen the Handbag from Chicago is back in New York at La Mama with David Serta's The Drag Scene, which has taken that cult classic from the 50s of The Bad Scene and turned it into a campy drag version that works hysterically. Connie Lingus adores her 11-year-old child, Carson, who goes to the Josephine Baker Rainbow Academy for Gifted Students run by Mrs. Ficus, who is a very conscientious person towards the planet. Connie and Carson's landlady is Mr. Charles, who loves to indulge Carson in all their campy splendor. Carson gets very indignant if you forget to call him they. The super lead lusts after Connie and has Carson's number all right. Also lusting after Connie is a new tenant, Jennifer Fatata, who bears a striking resemblance to a certain Broadway diva we all know and fear. Things come to a head when Summer Breeze wins the school talent contest and Carson only comes in second. They want that tiara and will do whatever it takes to get it. When Summer is found drowned, his mother Wendy becomes unhinged and turns into an alcoholic. The child, who has never known boundaries, feels entitled to whatever they want. Will anyone be able to stop them? What caused them to be a sociopath? What's a mother to do? The cast was so perfect that I wanted to give them a dumpster of hugs. Cheryl Snodgrass directed them to be totally straight in drag, which made it all the more hilarious. Gregory Graham's costume and Sidney Genko's makeup were skilled in putting the cast together. You'll be rooting for the drag scene. Happy, happy face. On March 22nd at 54 Below, there was this wonderful program called Remembering Sondheim because March 22nd just happens to be his birthday. And Joanna Gleason opened the show with a video message. And Phil Jeffrey Bond, who usually hosts the Sondheim Unplugged series at 54 Below, was the MC who peppered us with the salty tales and facts about Sondheim and behind the scenes stories from his various shows. And he was the most wonderful MC. I mean, learned stuff about Sondheim I never knew. Starting with Swara Joy Ross saying from Evening Primrose, "Let me see the world and no one is alone." She sings so fervently and discovered the hidden context in a Sondheim song. Liz McCartney sang I Remember Sky so reflectively about a 6-year-old remembering life before being trapped in a department store. Sarah Rice, the original Joanna from Sweeney Todd, told an amusing anecdote about her long yellow blonde hair wig and sang Greenfinch with a remarkable range. Annie Golden from the original Assassins sang her squeaky foam song, I'm Unworthy of Your Love, with Jacob Hoffman. She also regaled us with the world's pies in London. Somebody put on Sweeney Todd and let Annie Golden be Mrs. Lovett. She is perfect for the part. And Danielle Furlan, who we just adore as Little Red Riding Hood in Sunday in the Park as the bratty little kid looking for glasses. She surprised us from being Little Red Riding Hood to singing the wolf part, and quite lasciviously, I might add. Then she changed her tune to sing Children to Art, which was quite appropriate because she played the bratty child in Sunday in the Park. Manu Narayan ferociously sang Franklin Inc. He's in company now, but this is his becoming his signature song. He sang it in the Fiasco revival of Merrily and more recently at the Fiasco benefit honoring Sondheim themselves. And Jim Walton, who was in the original Merrily, sang Our Time and spoke about how Sondheim loved his Merrily kids. Julie Rayburn sang Old Friends, which had me weakening. Lucia Spina did Moments in the Woods, all disheveled and comedically. And Jacob Hoffman ended with Sunday. This was such a special evening, made even more special by Phil Jeffrey Bond, who was an expert on everything Sondheim and having the original cast members from some of the shows and revivals. 54 Below really knows how to put on a show. Happy face.
Broadway by the Year began its 21st season on Monday, March 21st at Town Hall. It is created, written, directed, and hosted by the inimitable Scott Siegel. The edition was entitled The New Wave. It celebrated the new wave of up-and-coming composers that have been featured on Broadway, including Pasek and Paul, Jason Robert Brown, David Yazbek, Lin-Manuel Miranda, Jonathan Larson, and Disney's Alan Menken, among others. Highlights of the evening included Joe Iconis, one of these up-and-coming composers who did a 3-song set. Another highlight was Danny Gardner, who danced, sang, and choreographed 4 numbers. And he did some of the numbers with the Broadway by the Year dance troupe and the Broadway by the Year chorus, but he did 2 numbers with Gunhild Carling, one of which was Like Sis, Like That from David Yazbek's Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, and the other was from Drowsy Chaperone. It was I Don't Want to Show Off, and Gunhild Carling certainly showed off.
Yes, because she blew 3 trumpets at the same time. I mean, she had 3 trumpets in her mouth playing. It was the most remarkable thing I've ever seen.
She was great. And among the other things with Quentin Earl Darrington, we created the song he did from the revival of Ragtime, Make Them Hear You. And it was just glorious song. He has a glorious voice.
And we should also say that it was Be More Chill. Joe Iconis sang.
Oh, Joe Iconis, yes, he did Be More Chill, and he did Michael in the Bathroom, which was the kind of big number from Be More Chill.
Aidan Gallagher did Wait For It, and Jan Brune did Burn from Hamilton. And Sarah Nimitz, she represented the pop composers with Kinky Boots, The History of Wrong Guys. And Jenny Lee Stern brought the house down with her Poor Unfortunate Souls in a tribute to Disney. And Jason Roberts Brown, Bridges of Manic County, said shivers when Ben Jones sang that heart tugging, it all fades away. Anyway, it was so, Broadway by the Year, they always do so wonderful job, and he gets the most terrific people to sing the best songs in the best way. I just love it, and I'm so glad it's back, and to see it live, and after he kept it going throughout the whole pandemic. I mean, kudos to Scott Siegel. Thank you.
And we should mention that the next Broadway by the Year, From Ziegfeld to Moulin Rouge, is going to be at Town Hall, as usual, on Monday, May 23rd. So come everybody. This is a big happy face for both Eva and I.
And back live at 92nd Street Y is their Lyrics and Lyricists series. And boy, did they start out brilliantly with David Loud facing the music. And it was directed, we should say, by Noah Racy. David Loud has worn many hats and waved many wands as a conductor, actor, music director, vocal and dance arranger, pianist, and he has many stories to tell. Most notably, as an original young kid who got to act in the original and legendary Merrily We Roll Along. He had a front row seat to see Sondheim putting on a show. In between anecdotes, Heidi Blinkenstaff, Laura Darrell, David Garrison, Alex Joseph Grayson, and Matthew Scott sang from some of the shows he was involved in. Curtains, She Loves Me, Little Mary Sunshine, and ending with Pippin's We Got Magic to Do, which summed it up neatly. One of my favorite stories was a hair-raising time he lost his music score and had to conduct blind while his intern raced to intercept the only score that was heading to New Jersey. Coming up next in Lyrics and Lyricists is You Send Me, the songs and soul of Sam Cooke, starring the illustrious Darius DeHaas. If you never heard him sing, oy, you're in for a treat. Well, actually, you have heard him sing if you watch Mrs. Maisel. That'll be on April 23rd and 25th, and a major happy face. While we're going on about closed shows that, but still ongoing other shows you can see, I want to talk about the New Victory, which is this brilliant place for kids. They put on wonderful, wonderful shows. And just recently, I saw Nambi E. Kelly's Jabari Dreams of Freedom, which showcases all the struggles of the African Americans and how to get your freedom from fear and oppression. 10-year-old Jabari and his friend Emmett were pulled over by the cops when Jabari couldn't find his keys, which landed Emmett in the hospital, and Jabari afraid to go outside into school to take his civil rights test. And in his worried dreams, he conjured up Obama as a narrator to all the people who stood up for their rights, even though they were afraid, and achieved freedom for the next generation. Ruby Bridges, Claudette Colvin, and other familiar, not so familiar voices were heard. Will Jabari wake up from this dream to make some dreams of his own come true? Rap music combined with hip-hop dance moved the story along in a fast-paced, exciting narrative to engage young and old alike. Very inspiring and better than some of these other plays dealing with the same subject of rising above subjugation. This is a dream of a show. It gets a major happy face. And even though it's closed, you can go there and see Stono April 20th through May 8th, because really, you don't have to be a kid to enjoy New Victory. And now for that man about theater town, our very own Jay Michaels with his Indie Influencer. Ooh, what does he have for us today?
This is Jay Michaels, and I'm your Indie Influencer here on television's High Drama. In the days of Shakespeare, there was a word to describe an individual who was brash, tell it like it is, and who offered powerful and keen observations on life. The word I'm thinking of is fool. Now, by today's standards, that word also is derogatory, but there are individuals in indie theater that know just how to fool with us. One of them is Michael Anthony. After retiring from the post office, he took his decades of experience and put it on video at first for a popular cartoon series, and then turned the whole thing into an off-Broadway play. Postal Madness, after a successful run in 2014, returns, now at the legendary American Theater of Actors at the end of the month. And Mr. Anthony is pulling no punches. Cancel culture be damned. If you want a pleasant diversion to your day, don't see this play. If you want to see the world through the eyes of someone who walked the walk and delivered the news for over 20 years, see you at the theater. Jed Ryan, arguably one of the most visible figures in New York nightlife, has made a movie. He and popular drag artist Clover Welsh created Modest Male Exposure. And this is not an ode to those sweaty buff bods that you see clubbing and flesh pressing, though there's a bit of that in the film. But this is a genuine exploration into the false and farcical social mores of men and the male form. Jed wears a black t-shirt in one scene, not much else after that. And he's not alone. The film will be making its rounds soon at festivals and other events, but the big premiere is at the Gene Frankel Theater on April 26. This is Jay Michaels, and I'm your indie influencer, and here we are on television's High Drama.
Back in August, we had the most wonderful show. I think it was one of my favorite shows because we had these terrific dancers on, and they had put together a little cookbook. And I did one of them called 3 Cup Chicken from 90 with her 90 from 90 Chen Dance Company. Well, to my horror, I found out she drowned in December, and I was just so upset. So, and as would have it, her company was putting on her final production of Awakening. So me and Sasha Clark went to see it. And it also included her last and final work, Unity. And the evening was filled out with her seminal piece of Incense, which was included as a prayer to her spirit, along with Introspection, Shadow Force, and Truth Bound. All in all, it was a beautiful tribute to Naini Chen's works and the resilience of her company. So do not miss their next New York season. In the meantime, they have many upcoming projects, some in or near the city and some more far-flung. So check out their website. We'll have more at the end of the show. But they are a powerful, small, evocative group, and she can cook too. So I'd like to dedicate this show to her. And I'm sure you guys all remember it. And Alfie and I really enjoyed that 3 Cup Chicken. So tune into our next show, April 9th. And I'll talk about I'll give you a review of Confederate. Also, please go to our High Drama Facebook page, because I list all the shows that are going on in between and things that have closed that we reviewed from the last show. So there's so much information on that Facebook page. And you can also go to YouTube and subscribe and never miss a High Drama. I know you wouldn't want to do that now, would you?